Hey guys, welcome back if you're new here. My name is Courtney. I am a homeschooling mom to two boys. I have a 5-year-old and an almost 3-year-old. So in this video, I wanted to share what my plans are for my son's kindergarten year for our morning time or morning basket. That's usually a very common term you'll hear in homeschool communities. I like to just kind of call it like our morning warm-up. It's kind of what we jump in and kind of cover a lot of different topics that maybe you don't necessarily need like an entire curriculum on it. If you're a Christian family or a family that practices a religion, this is also usually a time that you might include not necessarily like a Bible curriculum or a theology curriculum, but this would be like a time where maybe you read a little bit of scripture or you sing hymns or do psalms. This would also be a time that a lot of people do like art and music, because most people don't do like a full curriculum on that. And so there's so many different ways you can do this, but like I said, I like to just kind of give this our warm-up time. Now I will say we are a literature-based curriculum family, so we typically do curriculums like Sunlight that are very heavy in reading, and so we typically are going to warm up doing some type of reading regardless if it's our Sunlight curriculum or what you're going to see in this video. And then we'll be reading throughout the entire day. Particularly like I'll use a lot of this as our warm-up, and then we'll get into like our language arts / reading, like learning to read program, which would be all about reading, and then math, and then handwriting and etc., right? And so this is really just to kind of get my kids zeroed in. This is our time to start doing our homeschool time. And what works for you might not work for me. What works for our family may not be suitable for you guys. And even though it's kind of labeled morning time or morning warm-up, you could do this at any time. I know a lot of people will do this like during lunch or after lunch, or you could do this before bed, and it's really up to you and what fits your guys' schedule, but also just fits your personality and your kids' personality, your behavior, their behavior, just what works for you. And so take what you will from this video, but I hope it's helpful and I hope you get some ideas. Now I will also say I have a lot of items in here, and it's very possible we get through a lot of this stuff earlier than I plan and I add in more stuff. And if I do, I'll just kind of fill you guys in with that, or some of the stuff might take longer. And so we'll just kind of see what works and what doesn't. The other thing I want to say is, because I like teaching my kids through good books or good literature, you're going to see a lot of books in here that are going to cover topics that if you watched my summer morning basket or morning warm-up for summer, or just my summer plans in general, you will have already heard this, that a lot of these books, I am a Christian, but I have not fully like read through all of these books. So if you are also a Christian, then these books you may want to proofread if you decide to buy them. And so these are books that I haven't like just given to my kids, because obviously like we're going to use it for our kindergarten curriculum, but I also have not proofread them. And so there might be certain areas in this book that maybe are talking about things that maybe you would not want to go that way with having that discussion with your kids. But for me, I find that I don't always remember to talk about some of these things, and I don't want to be put in a situation or a position where it's either too late or that's the time that I'm going to talk about these things. And so I find bringing up these types of topics in a more neutral zone, if that makes sense, where we're just reading a book and then we can have discussions off of it. And I also find with some of these topics that we as parents tend to forget to talk about with our kids, like stranger danger or certain types of safety things, and we kind of just forget to talk to our kids about that. Well, I mean, like certain safety things. Hopefully with strangers you're well educating your children, but my point is sometimes we just get so busy and you don't want to say, I will get to it, and then it's too late. Or we just kind of forget and we just assume our child already knows about eating healthy and things like that. So now as your kids progress and get further, you may want an actual curriculum on certain things that I'm barely going to touch with on a book, right? So like things with safety, like fire safety, emergency preparedness, like there are curriculums out there, especially if your kids are older, elementary, that you may want them to do. So also keep that in mind, that this is coming from a perspective of a mom who has a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they love books, and why not read some books that are going to create that discussion, give us a platform to have that type of discussion. So just kind of wanted to put that out there. Now, like I said, if you have not watched my video on my summer plans, then you'll want to, because a lot of the books that I am going to show you in this video, I had very similar ones that my plan is to read through those in our summertime. And so if you're interested in kind of this safety and, you know, like weather or whatever, like, you know, like how to prepare for a storm, or just moving your body, or eating healthy, or, you know, not to be yelling, like just behavior things like that as well. If you're just interested in that kind of topic to have with your child, then you'll definitely want to click down below. I'll link that video and go and see all the books that I had in that video. In this video, I have my second pile and like I said, I just kind of divvied them up between like, oh, we'll focus on these ones in the summer, and then these are the ones we'll focus on in the fall. Now, the other thing is there were some books I mentioned in that video for our summer plans where I was like, I'm gonna start these in the summer, but I don't necessarily intend on finishing them, and that they will probably continue over into our fall, which would be our kindergarten year. And so I am gonna run through those real quick. If you already watched that video, you can just kind of fast forward a little bit, but just in case somebody's clicking on this video and didn't click on that one, I do want to still show those. Okay, so the first one being is these 365 manners that kids should know. So this will be one that in the summer, my plan was to kind of read through the table of contents and just really focus on the ones that my kids like need to focus on right now, or that are just pertinent. You know, there's some things in here that yes, your children should know, but it's based more on what age they are. So when you look at the table of contents, it does kind of go like, oh, on January 1st, you're going to focus on this manner. And I just don't necessarily agree with that. So what I will do as part of my prep for the week or prep for the month is I'll just pick a few out. And like I said, we might do this once a week or twice a week. I'm not going to bear myself down and be like, oh my gosh, you have to do this like every single day for our 4 to 5 day. That would be way too much. So, but just kind of sprinkling these in. The other one I have Bible questions and answers for kids. And so this is just a wonderful book where my oldest is theologically, where he's like starting to ask those kinds of questions. Like it says on the back, who created God? Where is heaven? Can God do anything? Just kind of more of those types of questions. And as someone with a Christian theology background, I just find like, yes, I can answer those questions and I will definitely answer those, but it's probably going to go over your head. So sometimes answering these questions in a biblically accurate way, but for your 5-year-old to understand, can actually be very complicated. I'll show you a little bit of a B-roll. You can kind of see some of the questions it's going to cover. Similar to the 365 manners, like we will just kind of sprinkle it in, maybe a couple here and there. And we'll just see how many we got through in the summer and if we did end up continuing it into the fall. The next one is leading little ones to God. So this is split into parts, and I will show a little bit of a B-roll of the table of contents, and you can see that there's different parts, and then under each part it obviously goes into great detail in different sections that are related to that part. And so it's absolutely wonderful. You know, you have an area that you will read with your kids, and then there's an area where it's something to talk about. So kind of beginning that discussion and seeing what your kids, and again, it might vary based on their age, but at least trying to talk a little bit about what you read. There is also a prayer, a suggested reading. So again, depending on your child's age, you pull out the Bible and read that section of scripture. I think would be a really great thing to do. And then there's also a hymn and a prayer. So yeah, this I'm very excited for. We will take our time through it. This is definitely a logical component to our morning time, not just focusing on the Bible storybook that, is so common, but starting to integrate a little bit more of the Christian religion. Okay, now we also have What Would You Do? And I plan on starting in the summer, as I said in that video, and there's a good chance we will get through it, but there's also a chance we may not. It just depends how much we got through, and we will continue this if we didn't. And it's just 46 situations for making good choices, and it's examples like if you saw a bill fall out of a person's pocket, what would you do if you found a lost dog, if you suddenly had to go in the pool. And so I will show you the table of contents. You can kind of get an idea of different types of choices. And again, it's really just like presenting that situation, and your kid may go, well, I don't know, but at least you're starting to create that platform of that discussion, and you can definitely fill in your child of, well, this is probably what you should do. And again, just kind of planting that seed. The next one is I Can Do That. And it's 1,000 ways to become independent. And just kind of like with the last book, there may be different levels of like situations where you don't feel comfortable discussing with your children. Or in this book, I know there's like a picture of a boy in the shower, and he is somewhat covered up, but again, it's just, is that something you feel comfortable with your children seeing? There's also one of them on the toilet, so I know there's a little bit of nudity in that. And so just kind of, if you are interested in this book, those are just areas where I'm just throwing out as a parent to another parent, that you may want to kind of proofread those and see if that's something you feel comfortable. And whether you feel comfortable with that or not, there are a lot of really good areas in this book. And what I have learned with my children is they love watching videos, or they love books like this where they see other children doing things that they too are trying to figure out how to do, tying their shoes, or I think there was like putting peanut butter on a sandwich. Yeah, like putting butter on the sandwich, and just kind of walking through with your child through that. Like I know the one in the shower is like, well, how do you wash your hair? And like sometimes it's like we get in such of a mode with our kids where it's like, it's bath time, get them in the bath, scrub their hair, and their body, rinse them off and get them out. And we kind of forget, like, there is an age where they're gonna have to do that themselves. And so it's kind of like we can start having those discussions with them, whether they're really ready to do that, right? So anyway, so this is a book that I'm really excited for, and I will give you a little bit of a flip through it so you can kind of see just kind of, again, just those situations where you may not necessarily like think about talking with your children. I know there were some in there where I was like, oh wow, that's absolutely genius that it covers it. Okay, so those are the like kind of like leftover books that we would have done in the summer, and there's a chance we could have gotten them done, or maybe we didn't. I don't know. So the other thing I will continue, as I mentioned in that video, is these wipe and clean workbooks. The pre-K one will be for my youngest son, who's 3 years old. And again, like I said in my morning video down below, he's just really interested in letters and numbers, and he actually is interested in tracing them. There are images that we could talk about. Oh, Q says, but we could also talk about just the images from a speech perspective. As a mom who has kids in speech therapy, there's an area on colors and just kind of focusing on colors as well as their shapes, and of course there's an area on numbers. And so this will just kind of continue, and I'm not really worried with my youngest for pen control. I mean, he really is not developed in that way, and I don't expect him to be. It's more or less just he wants a book and he wants to color, and he wants to have like kind of that what my older son has, right? Like my brother's doing schoolwork and I want to do that. And so again, it is a learning book. It is for tracing and kind of learning pen control, but it's not something I'm forcing him to do and like, oh my gosh, you're out of the line. Like, absolutely not. Now, for my other son, it does say pre-kinder, but this is definitely what he's focusing on for kindergarten. And depending on how much he did and how well he did with this in the summer, I may buy a different one. And if I do, then you guys will see that in my update, my update probably around December or something. But for now, this is what I'm expecting for my kindergarten in the summer, as well as in his kindergarten year, especially in his fall term. And it's really just this where he still is focusing on his letters. Again, I expect that he knows his letters, uppercase and lowercase, but I like that he can see that, hey, both of these are A, but just sometimes when you're practicing A, it's usually just lowercase or just uppercase, and so this way he can see them and then he can practice writing them. But then he's still getting the ability to trace, and he's getting that visual cue, but then he can start freehanding it. And that's really where my expectations are right now with him, is that he is able to just start writing the letters freehanding and not just tracing. And so there's also a section on this for numbers. It'll go through that, and again, I want him to be able to trace the numbers and also being able to freehand it, as well as understanding and recognizing that 7 has a numerical value or figure, however you want to say that, but you also can have it written out that when we're reading it, we see it that way. And then also being able to see that it has a quantity that is assigned to it as well. And so these will just be kind of our morning warm-up. They can do that while I'm reading, and it'll be really great. So the other thing I have is the Ergemeyer Bible Storybook. And so this will be the Bible that we are working through for my son's kindergarten curriculum. This actually will go, this is actually the required resource for his Sunlight. And again, I will link that video down below. There will be a whole playlist on my kindergarten announcements and my kindergarten curriculum flip-throughs. But as far as the Bible we will be using for the bulk of our Bible curriculum, Sunlight does require the Ergemeyer Bible Storybook, and I'm so excited. This will be absolutely wonderful. And while we are doing a Bible curriculum for my son's kindergarten year, this is the main, this and a CD, as well as I think it's a verse memorization, is like the only Bible curriculum that Sunlight requires. And as someone with a background in Christian theology, obviously that's not enough. So we will add more to that, and we'll do that at a separate time, but we will still do what Sunlight requires. And so our Bible reading, as well as our like our CD that we'll listen to, we will do that during this morning warm-up. So I did want to show that. The other thing that I'm going to include, and we will not do the whole thing because this book definitely kind of covers topics I'm not ready to cover with my kids, but this is the Children's Encyclopedia of Bible Beliefs. And so this one is going to cover kind of some topics that this one does, where it's kind of like questions, but it also goes into a little bit more like, what is heaven like? What do you do when you're scared? Are there angels? So again, just kind of based off of how that book was received, we'll go into this. Again, this is going to go into a little bit more of heavier topics. So let's see, like God, so you can see like God and his actions is one of the subtitles. I will definitely do a little bit of a flip through for this while I'm talking. You guys can kind of see, you know, there's an area on gossip, and then grace, happiness through the Christian faith, and it just goes through so many different things. And like I said, some of this is definitely like over my kids' heads, but it's covering a little bit of areas that I think are absolutely appropriate for my kindergartner. And again, just, you know, maybe the Bible curriculum we're going to work on is going to cover it, but maybe not. So anyway, so like I said, I'm excited to incorporate this. I actually got this at a local thrift shop, so if they have it, I will link it down below. The other two resources that we will be incorporating will be Tell Me About Salvation, and this is the Train 'em Up series. And then I also have the Tell Me About the Bible. So this one was a thrift book, and it does not have the CD in it, but this one I bought from Amazon, and it does have the CD in it. And so you know, it has a CD that you can listen to, and it has songs and stuff in it. But these, we have the one on prayer, and my kids have really enjoyed them, and I've actually really enjoyed just how they kind of talk about the how they just kind of like talk about the subject. I really enjoyed the prayer one, and so I thought, okay, so let's get one that's a little bit more theologically accurate on what the Bible is, why is it important, as well as salvation. The other books I got was God's Very Good Idea, and so I feel like this is a really good point to say. I can't remember if I mentioned this in the beginning, but we won't be doing these every single day. Some of these we'll do, like, you know, we might do the 365 manners once a week, right? And then maybe we do one of our, you know, and then maybe we do one of these type of books, twice a week, right? And then maybe I do, one of these a week or something like that, and then this I might just do one section a week. It really just depends on what is working for my kids, how receptive are they, and also just how long is this taking. Again, we are doing a literature-based curriculum, so I already have a ton of reading to do, and so it'll really just kind of depend. But like I said, maybe we finish the question and answer books or whatever, so I incorporate this one. So my idea is maybe one week we are spreading this out throughout our morning time, and then the following week I replace it with the one on salvation, and then we finish that one. So then the next week I introduce this one, God's Very Good Idea, a true story about God's delightfully different family. So this book could change our families, the church, and this generation. It's a beautiful book, both in its pictures and its teachings. Everyone you see is different than you and the same as you. We look different, speak different, and play different, but we are all valuable. And that's because in the beginning, God had a very good idea of making us that way. And this is the story of his idea and how you can be a part of it. So once we finish that one, and again, we might finish that one day, we might just read that in an entire day. And then maybe the next day I include this one, God Made Me Unique, helping children see value in every person. God's kingdom is full of people uniquely made in his image, and God Made Me Unique helps children learn how every person is valuable, eliminating fear and misconceptions about those who have special needs. Through this book, Joni and friends help children learn to treat all people with kindness and respect. So again, just kind of including these topics where it's I don't want us to be somewhere and my kid will be like, oh, because this has happened, and my son will say something like, oh, why is that girl in a wheelchair? Whereas we can have these discussions prior to that happening, and it's not that he's not seeing them as, invaluable by any means, but just seeing that he doesn't have to ask me that necessarily. And so that's kind of where I'm going for. Okay, there is a book that I had in that video, in my summer video, and I'm planning on finishing the poems so that we can introduce this poetry book. And I got this one off of a recommendation. It's a child's introductory to poetry, revised and updated. Now it does say, listen while you learn about the magic words that have moved mountains, won battles, and made us laugh and cry. Now, it says it includes downloadable audio and a poster, so I'll have to see if that works, because I thought it came with a CD, but because I thrifted it, obviously it didn't come with a CD. So I'll have to see if that works, and I'll definitely update you guys in my, around December when I do my mid-term update. But obviously, there's certain things that right here, as you can see, as a Christian, we will be skipping over that. But again, I'm not somebody where I'm not a Christian where I'm gonna so shelter my kids that they don't see this type of stuff. And then, yeah, because that doesn't work for anybody. So obviously it's there and we can talk about it, but it's not something where I'm gonna be like, oh, we're gonna read this and enjoy this. It's something that I'm not gonna give a lot of, I'm not going to give a good platform to or anything, but I am not going to shelter my kids where, oh, I'm not going to buy this book because it has that. So, but anyways, you do you. So there's different things that it kind of talks about. It has a lot of just really nice imagery. Honestly, my kids are going to absolutely love all of this. So again, I don't know what age this was recommended for, but it does include just a lot of different ones. If you look at the table of contents, you have part 1, which is rhymes and their reasons, and then part 2 is poetry's great, rulers of rhyme, legends of the lyric, and superstars of the poet of the spoken word. And so let me know if you've used this. Like I said, I have not proofread it, obviously, from the front cover. I'm not happy with that, but I'm not gonna shelter my kids. We see this, my kids are gonna be exposed to this, but I can make it a platform for us to say why this is not okay in the eyes of God, right? So, but anyway, so let me know if you've read that one. I know he has other ones in his series. And then the other thing we'll be doing is, this is what we're going to do for our art. And this is the art treasure hunt. This was a recommendation by Sunlight, but it was not a requirement for it. And so because it's not a requirement, and it's not necessarily an option, it was a suggestion. So it's not even on the teacher's guide. And So I actually found this on Thrift Books, which was amazing because actually on Sunlight's website it was really expensive. And so what I like about this is if you're somebody like me where it's like, yeah, I see the beauty in artist studies and having your kids study art and things like that, but you don't really know how to go about it. This one's really nice because you're going to have really amazing artwork that is obviously famous, but it's going to have questions like, can you spot a sailboat and a little monkey, and where's the man playing music? So it has your children. Really transparent. I took a drink and got it all over my shirt. So yes, it's not a different day, but I did have to go change my shirt. Okay, so anyways, so with this book, The Art Treasure Hunt, I just really like it because you're going to have those famous artwork that your child can look at, and then instead of like, oh, what do you think about the brush strokes or about the lighting, they're going to actually have you find things in the picture. And while doing that, they will be looking at the artwork, right? And they can maybe point out other things that they notice, whether it's, the shading or the lighting or the method that was used, or it might just spark different conversations like, oh, did somebody paint this or draw this? And I just feel like this is more of a kindergarten level, appropriate level for studying art. And so you can kind of see like what it's going to have you look at while your child is looking at the different artwork. And it's not all the same. Some of them will say, can you find these details in the picture? So that one would be like her dress or her mom's dress, or the other page might say, oh, can you try to find these elements hiding in the picture? And so I just think this is just a better, more 5-year-old approach to beginning to just at least look at artwork, and then it might prompt some other discussions. And so we will incorporate that again in this like morning time for his kindergarten year, and it might be once a week or it might be more. Again, so I really just kind of like feed off of my kids of like, are they enjoying this? Do they want to do more than one page? Then we'll just kind of continue on with that. So now I'm going to get into the books that I bought, and most of these I thrifted through Thrift Books, and like I said, these are just going to be covering topics that I want to talk about, particularly with my kindergartner, but you don't always have like the ability to just like sit down and like, hey, I want to talk to you about this subject, right? As a busy mom, you usually don't have the mental space to even think that through. And sometimes when the situation arises and it's actually happening, it's usually too late to have that discussion. And then if you're going to have the conversation after, it might not be necessarily like a neutral zone, right? And so like I said, these are going to be a wide variety of like health and safety. They're going to be like character, behavior, just different things like that. Again, coming from a family who uses a literature-based curriculum, and I just really enjoy teaching my kids through books and good literature, then this is why I chose this route. However, once we didn't finish in the summertime, we'll definitely carry over, and there may be ones in the summer that we want to reread or we need to reread, and we'll definitely do that as well. And it's really the same thing with this as was with this stack is, some of these we may do every week, some of these we may do, we may do multiples of these a week. So like if my kids, if I'm talking about like health and they're really into that, then I might do one on Monday, and then Tuesday we might do another one, and then Wednesday we do another one. Or if we do one and they're like, okay, yeah, I get it, wash my hands, mom. And then Tuesday, like we've moved on from that. So Tuesday, maybe we'll do a safety one about strangers, or we're just super swamped and just getting through like this stack, again, broad strokes. But if we get through kind of like this and I'm like, we're done, then I'll just hold off on these books, and we might only do one of these a week, right? So it really just depends. But I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what I am like scheduling as I want to get this done and talked about. I want to get these are just what I want you guys to know. I've actively said, I want to focus on these subjects, and I went out and I researched and I found the books, and so I'm scheduling them to be a part of our kindergarten year. It's just more of I'm just a little bit more free on, is it one a week? Is it one every day for a week? Are we doing, one on germs a month, and then the next month I'll do another one? Like, I don't know. It really just kind of feeding off of my kids. And that's a great thing about books. And what's also really great that I thrifted these books is they're mine. And so we can read them over and over and over, and we can cycle them through, right? And that's what's awesome. First one that I got was Wash Your Hands, and this is one of the ready to read, and this one is just actually highly recommended for washing your hands, and obviously it is a level 1. I really got this one for my 3-year-old just because he's just a little bit stubborn about washing his hands, after we're outside or after he goes to the bathroom, and it's just like mom telling him to do it. It's kind of a battle right now, and so this is really geared more towards my 3-year-old, but I know even though it's a level 1 that it's also just a really good reminder for my kindergartner. Okay, so then I got Germs Can Make Me Sick, and so this one I got because my oldest is actually very interested in germs and, anything medical wise. And so this one is really geared towards him. He's kind of like the opposite of my youngest, where he's concerned that if my youngest doesn't wash his hands and then 3 hours later is touching my son's toys, that now he's got germs all over my toys, and yeah, it's just a current battle right now. And so anyway, so this one is really geared towards my other son. And then we got The Day I Forgot to Wash My Hands. So this one looks a little scary, especially on the back. But again, I think just kind of a reminder for both of my sons, just like, hey, this is why we wash our hands. And if we don't, then this is kind of like all the germs and stuff you can have on your hand. So then we have What a Cold Needs, and so this was something we really battled with this actually recently since we live in a really cold environment. We're still not out of the sickness realm, but just my oldest is very concerned when I don't feel good, and he wants to sleep all the time, and it's so hard because he also wants to play, and so it's kind of a very confusing topic for him. And so this is definitely something that I think will be a good book for him, as well as my youngest, because my youngest also has had a very hard time when he is sick, and it's just which again is very normal, just wants to be all over mommy and just doesn't want to be alone, doesn't understand. Okay, so now let's get into some of the safety ones. So my kids are huge Berenstain Bear fans, and so I have Safe and Sound. And so this one says, Brother Bear and Sister Bear love to ride their skateboards. When their usual skating park closes, the only place left to ride is a neighborhood spot where helmets are not the fashion. Will brother and sister forget mama's advice about putting safety first? So again, this is just, I think, going to talk about some other things in it as well. But this one I thought would be really good because my kids love the Berenstain Bears, and we're kind of out of the realm where my kids are we don't want to wear knee pads and stuff, and I don't think they'd ever get to the idea about a helmet, but really getting into why do we wear a helmet. So I think that would be really good. And then I have this one, which is I Can Play It Safe. Taking responsibility for the safety of young children is an adult matter, and now there is help to get started and to keep discussion going in a non-threatening way. I Can Play It Safe engages young children in the conversation about their safety and helps them practice the rules of personal safety. It teaches kids to understand and always use the check-in rule, and helps children learn to listen to their gut instincts for that uh-oh feeling when something doesn't quite feel right. Also, the book sensitively addresses keeping secrets versus surprises and understanding confusing or harmful touch, and make good personal safety decisions in potentially dangerous situations. So again, just really covering a lot of topics. This is definitely one I will obviously read first and make sure is age appropriate, and that all of those are topics I'm ready to discuss in the way that they bring them up. Let's talk emergencies. A guide to life-saving lessons in a kid-friendly language. Can you find the 911 hidden in each picture? Call for help. So does your child know how to get help from a locked cell phone screen, or what to do if there's a fire in the home? Imagine the confidence of knowing your child can handle an emergency with capability and knowledge. This book breaks down life-saving lessons tailored specifically for kids, from dialing 911 from a locked cell phone to memorizing crucial personal information. This book guides you through creating a safety-savvy youngster, and it weaves in the understanding of trust, what secrets should not be kept, and how to avoid potential emergencies, ensuring your little ones understand the importance of preparation in a way that sticks. So again, covering more topics than maybe this one does. Again, it'll be a proofread for me first, just to make sure, you know, the dialing 911 from a locked phone, I don't necessarily know if I'm ready to teach that to my kindergartner, but that may be something that, you know, later on I definitely want him to learn. But definitely, like, what do we do if there's a fire in the house? Like, these are topics that sometimes, honestly, as parents, we forget that even like with a kindergartner, we need to start having that discussion with them. So I have that one. The next one is going to be please play safe. So again, kind of redundant, but in that same just safety realm, Penguin's Guide to Playground Safety. This one was rated really good, and I think because, you know, it's got a lot of fun animals in it, I think this one will probably, compared to this one, will be more appropriate for my 3-year-old, but again, my 5-year-old will probably get some information out of that and a little bit of benefit. Okay, then we'll get into a little bit of the character and behavior. So what to do when you feel like hitting. So obviously with 2 boys, we are kind of getting into that. My youngest is starting to yell at my oldest and hit. Not necessarily, my oldest is pretty good at not, you know, doing that. I think when he gets super frustrated, he'll do it every once in a while. But this one was highly recommended, and I love the pictures. And so again, just kind of facilitating that discussion outside of when they're actually hitting. Is it right to fight? Spats are normal among younger kids and often lead to screaming, hitting, and other expressions of anger. This fun-to-read book helps kids understand that it's often all right to be angry, but it is always best to resolve conflicts peaceably. Be honest and tell the truth. So sometimes it seems easier to lie than tell the truth. All children experiment with lying, especially to avoid negative consequences, but even very young children can learn the difference between what's true and what isn't, and they can learn to choose the truth even when it's a struggle. In simple words and engaging illustrations, this book builds honesty, a cornerstone of good character. Be polite and kind. When children are courteous, respectful, and kind, other people enjoy being around them. Politeness invites reciprocal behavior and helps people get along. In simple words and appealing illustrations, this book teaches the basics of good manners and gracious behavior. Children begin to see the benefits that courtesy brings. Made to be read aloud, this book also includes a special section for adults with discussion questions to share, politeness games to play, and role-playing activities and build social skills. We got this one, Ruthie and the Not So Teeny Lie. Ruthie loves little things, the smaller the better. So when she finds a teeny tiny camera on the school playground one afternoon, she can hardly believe her luck. She wants to keep the camera in the worst way, but there's one little problem, it isn't hers. Ruthie swears to her teacher and to her classmate Martin that she got the camera for her birthday, but deep down, Ruthie knows better, and all day long, that teeny tiny camera weighs on her consciousness until she can hardly stand it. How could one little camera turn into such a great big problem? So then we have Get Up and Go. Turn off the TV and start moving. We all come in different shapes and sizes, and it doesn't matter if you're tall, short, skinny, or round. Your body is your own, and you need to take care of it. Get Up and Go is guaranteed to inspire you to get off the couch. Vibrant, fun-filled illustrations and an encouraging text explain the many great reasons to exercise, from making new friends to going to new places or just keeping your body in good shape. Pizza Day. So this author has a lot of these like cooking type of books, and so this one my kids will just absolutely love. So today is pizza day. I get to help Daddy in the garden. The seeds we planted have blossomed into herbs and vegetables. We wash them and begin to make the sauce. Then it's time to prepare the dough, and soon we will put together the pizza. Yum. So my youngest son's a little bit of a picky eater, and so I think kind of seeing how like how our food is made up of all this other food, and obviously trying to get him to incorporate himself into putting the food together and making it. Again, just kind of showing him like food doesn't have to be scary, different textures and different things like that is because it all comes from different foods. So this one I'm really excited for is Good Enough. So I'm really excited about this one because my degree is actually in nutrition and dietetics, so it's a one-of-a-kind, the only guide to kids nutrition written especially for kids, a practical hands-on tool for families who want to eat a healthy diet. This book explains nutrition from peas to beans. In this book you'll learn all about the nutrient groups, each nutrient's function, which foods contain which nutrients, and how much of each nutrient a kid needs each day, and how the body digests food, and all about calories. It includes the food pyramid, which we no longer use in the dietetics realm, but still very helpful, and how to use it, kid-friendly recipes, and it's perfect for so many people to use. So we are excited about that one. And then we have The Empty Pot. Okay, so The Empty Pot is Demi's beloved picture book about an honest schoolboy. A long time ago in China, there was a boy named Ping who loved flowers. Anything he planted burst into bloom. The emperor loved flowers too, and when it was time to choose an heir, he gave a flower seed to each child in the kingdom. Whoever can show me their best in a year's time, he proclaimed, shall succeed me to the throne. Ping plants his seed and tends it every day, but month after month passes and nothing grows. When spring comes, Ping must go to the emperor with nothing but an empty pot. Demi's exquisite art and beautiful, simple text shows Ping's embarrassing failure is turned triumphant in the satisfying tale of honesty rewarded. So I have that one, and I've heard so many good things about that one. And then we have Where Is My Turtle? Archer can't find his pet turtle anywhere. Can you? And I'm pretty sure this one is about like why we need to keep things clean. So mom is sure he's in Archer's messy bedroom, or is it in the backyard or somewhere in the house. Archer looks everywhere but can't find his turtle until he learns to think like one. Sharp-eyed young readers will love spotting the hidden turtle in every scene in this imaginative and interactive story of friendship. And then the last one I have is Accident. So all about those accidents. So when Lola the armadillo accidentally knocks a jug of juice all over her parents' best chair, it is a calamity, a catastrophe, a fiasco. She panics and decides to run away to the library. All along the way, she gathers a group of equally alarmed friends who have gotten into similar pickles, but they're not the only ones in trouble. A stoat's snarled in spaghetti, a bowl's broken, a whole china shop, and a llama's up a tree, and someone should tell that platypus to watch out for that hose. It's the end of the world, or is it? While sorry still might be the hardest word, this silly and sincere book will help readers realize that making a mistake isn't a disaster, and Lola just might find that a small accident can snowball into a big opportunity for forgiveness of herself and others. So and I actually have one more that I forgot. And so this is Before We Eat, and it is a thankful prayer. This one is introducing young children to Jewish life, Jewish holidays, and Shabbat with the very first board books. And there's a whole bunch in the series if you're interested. We are not Jewish, but I really like this one because Jews as well as Christians, we pray before we eat, and I think it's really nice that it's a board book for kids and kind of introduces that, but it also introduces just the different culture and obviously just kind of a discussion as well. So those are all the resources I have for our morning time or a morning basket or a morning warm-up for my son's kindergarten year. And again, these resources will be throughout the entire fall, throughout the entire spring term. If we end up running through most of these, I will definitely find more to fill in. So you'll want to make sure that you are subscribed and that you hit that bell for notifications. So when I start doing my updates during the kindergarten year, you will know how is it going with these books. Are we liking them? Are we enjoying them? Did we finish them? Did I add more? So definitely want to make sure that you are notified for those. And yeah, we're so excited. I can't wait. Our kindergarten year is going to be phenomenal. If you're curious what other kindergarten curriculum we will be using, click the playlist down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.